Welcome to Module 3, Measurement and Calculations in Plumbing Works. You've held tools. You've learned safety. Now it's time to learn the most overlooked and most dangerous part of plumbing: measurement. Why dangerous? Because one wrong number, one misread tape, and the entire system fails. Plumbing is precision. A pipe too short, a slope too steep, or a joint misaligned. These are not just mistakes. They're expensive errors. This module will train your eyes and your hands to work with accuracy, to measure with intention, to calculate with confidence. Because in plumbing, you don't just cut and connect. You plan, you mark, you double check. You build systems that last. So get ready. Bring your focus. Bring your calculator. Let's master the numbers behind every great plumbing job.
Identify and use measurement tools in plumbing. Understand metric and imperial measurement systems. Measure and calculate pipe lengths, diameters, and angles accurately. Estimate pipe volume and water flow rate. Avoid common measurement errors in plumbing installations. Ensures precise pipe fittings and proper connections. Prevents material wastage and incorrect installations. Affects water pressure, flow rates, and system efficiency. Saves time and cost in plumbing projects. Real-life example. A plumber installs a drainage system but miscalculates the slope. Water starts pooling instead of flowing. The entire section must be redone, leading to extra costs and delays. Every great plumber has a toolbox, but what separates the ordinary from the excellent is knowing how to use each tool and why. Let's talk about the essential measurement tools you'll work with on almost every job. Tape measure. This is your best friend in plumbing. Use it to measure pipe lengths, distances between fittings, and wall clearances. A simple mistake in reading it can throw off an entire installation. Always pull it straight, keep it steady, and take your time. Calipers. Need to check pipe diameter. Calipers give you precision, especially when you're matching fittings or checking whether a pipe is internal or external fit. Get into the habit of using them, especially on unfamiliar materials or imported pipes. Rulers and straight edges. These help you mark straight cutting lines on pipes or alignment lines on walls. They're simple but powerful. A crooked cut can lead to leaks, bad joints, and even failure of the entire system. Laser distance measurer. Used for long-range measurements, especially in larger buildings or site layouts. With the push of a button, you can get accurate room-to-room or wall-to-wall readings. No need for two people to hold a tape. Protractor. This little tool helps you measure and replicate pipe angles for bends and offsets. It's a must-have when laying out drainage lines, especially when slope and angle precision matter. Now listen, these tools may look simple, but in your hands, they are the difference between being seen as just a plumber or being known as a reliable professional who gets it right the first time. Respect your tools, understand their purpose, and master their use. Now let's slow things down. You see this? The tape measure. Every plumber carries one, but carrying it isn't the same as understanding it. A misread measurement, even by a few millimeters, can ruin a perfect job. That's why we take this part seriously. First, know your systems. There are two systems you'll encounter. The metric system, millimeters, centimeters, meters, standard across most of the world. The imperial system, inches and feet, still common in places like the US or on imported fittings. If you mix them up or confuse one for the other, your pipe will either be too short or too long. And in plumbing, there's rarely a second chance to cut right. Second, understand the tape. Each line matters. On the metric side, 10 millimeters make a centimeter, 100 centimeters make a meter. On the imperial side, an inch is broken into halves, quarters, eighths, and sixteenths. Know how to read these, because many fittings still come labelled in inches. Third, measure twice, cut once. Before cutting, always measure at least twice. Confirm your start and end points. Don't round off unless instructed. And if you're working with fittings, remember to include the fitting allowance. Real-life example. I once watched a young plumber mark 120 centimetres using the inch side of the tape. The pipe came out nearly half a metre short. He had to redo the entire section. Wasted time, wasted material, and a very angry supervisor. So never underestimate this skill. A tape measure is simple, yes, but in the wrong hands, it's a trap. In yours, it's a symbol of precision. You've got your pipe, you've got your tape. Now, let's make sense of the two numbers that matter most: length and diameter. Pipe length. This is the distance from end to end of the pipe, and it must be measured based on how the pipe will fit between fittings. But here's the catch. If you don't include the fitting allowance, that small section that enters into the elbow T or socket, your pipe will always come up short. Some fittings go in 10 millimeters, others 25 millimeters. You must know your fitting depth before you mark. Pipe diameter. This tells you how wide the pipe is, either outside diameter, OD, or inside diameter, ID. The wrong diameter means the pipe won't fit, or the flow won't perform. Always match the pipe's diameter with the fittings and flow requirement. A mismatch creates leaks or pressure problems. Steps to mark a pipe for cutting. Here's how a professional does it. 1. First, measure from the edge of the pipe using your tape. Include the fitting allowance. 2. Second, use a ruler or straight edge to make your mark clearly, all the way around the pipe if possible. 3. Third, double-check the measurement. I don't care how experienced you are, always confirm before you cut. 4. Fourth, make sure your pipe is supported and stable. A shaky pipe leads to crooked cuts. Pro tip: use a marker with a fine tip so your lines are precise, not fat and messy. A poor mark leads to a poor cut. This step looks simple, but it's where precision begins. Every perfect system starts with a perfect cut, and every perfect cut starts with a proper mark. All right, you've taken your measurements, you've confirmed your units. Now comes the part where skill meets discipline, marking the pipe for cutting. This might seem like a small step, but I'll tell you this: it's one of the most important parts of a professional installation. Step 1. Measure from the right end. Always begin your measurement from the cut end of the pipe, not the factory finished end. Why? Because the factory end is clean and true, and you'll want that to connect into your fitting. Step 2. Use a clear, accurate marking tool. Use a fine point permanent marker or pencil. Not chalk, not your finger. Make your mark sharp and visible. Step 3. Square the mark around the pipe. Use a straight edge, square, or pipe wraparound to make your line all the way around the pipe. This ensures your cut is straight, and that's crucial for tight fittings. Step 4. Include the fitting allowance. This is where many new plumbers fail. They forget that some of the pipe slides inside the fitting. You must subtract the fitting depth from your total length when marking. Step 5. Double-check everything. Before you touch the cutter, measure again. Check the length. Check the mark. Ask yourself, did I use the right units? Did I factor in the allowance? Am I sure? Real tip from the field. I've seen seasoned plumbers cut the perfect pipe at the wrong length. Don't be that plumber. Take your time now, so you don't lose it later. Marking isn't a formality. It's the first real act of precision. The better your mark, the better your cut. The better your cut, the better your system. If you get the units wrong, you'll get the job wrong. And in plumbing, there's no room for guessing when it comes to measurements. Plumbers work with two major systems, the metric system and the imperial system. Metric system. Used in most parts of the world, especially here in Nigeria, this system uses millimeters, mm, centimeters, cmnr, and meters, m. It's clean. It's based on tens. It's precise, but only if you use it correctly. Imperial system. This system is still used in the US and on some imported fittings or older drawings. It uses inches, not and feet, EIDHA. An inch has 16 tiny divisions. Miss one, and your cut is off. Misread it, and your pipe doesn't fit. The danger of mixing systems. I've seen it happen. A plumber orders a 10-foot pipe but receives a 10-metre pipe instead. That's 3 extra meters of material. Wasted. Or worse, you cut for 120 centimetres but use the inch side of the tape. Now the pipe's too short and the entire system is misaligned. Learn your conversions. Here's what you need to know. 1 inch, 25.4 meter, 1 foot, 30.48 cm. Keep that in your head, especially if you work with international materials or plans. So be sharp. Confirm the units before you measure. Don't assume, don't guess, and never cut until you're 100% sure. Remember, a plumber who knows their units works smarter and wastes nothing. Plumbing is more than cutting and connecting pipes. It's also about planning, calculating, and getting it right before you even start. Let's talk about the math behind a solid pipe layout. It's what ensures your installation flows properly, functions efficiently, and stands the test of time. Pipe angles for bends and offsets. When you change direction, whether vertically or horizontally, you'll often need bends or offsets. To do that right, you must calculate the angle and the distance between connection points. If you guess it, the fittings will misalign. If you measure and calculate, the job fits perfectly. Pipe slopes for drainage. Drainage systems rely on gravity, and gravity needs the right slope. Too little slope? Water pools and clogs. Too much slope? Water outruns the solids and leaves build-up behind. The standard slope is 140 or 2.5%. That's 2.5 centimeters drop for every 1 meter. And yes, you'll need to calculate it every time. Water volume in a pipe. To know how much water a pipe can hold, you use this formula. Volume, Chokra P, X, radius 2, X length. That helps when designing storage systems, pressure balance, or even for pricing. Material estimation. Before you start a job, you should already know how many meters of pipe you need, how many bends, elbows, and tees, how much slope you'll build in. This comes from careful measurements. And applying the right math. Real-life lesson. A plumber once installed a drainage line with too steep a slope. The water rushed out, but the solids stayed behind. Result, constant blockages. The system failed, and he paid for the rebuild. So don't fear the numbers, master them. Because if you can calculate it, you can build it right the first time. And in this trade, that's how you earn respect. Now let's go a little deeper, into the heart of plumbing performance, understanding how much water flows through a pipe, and how fast. This isn't just about math, it's about control. Control over pressure, over volume, over performance. Pipe volume calculation. Let's start with volume. This tells you how much water a pipe can hold at any given time. The formula is simple. Volume sub P, X, radius 2, X length. That's the formula for the volume of a cylinder. And every pipe is basically a long cylinder. Get the radius right, not the diameter, and make sure your units are consistent. This helps when calculating storage capacity, drainage tank sizing, or estimating how much water a system will move over time. Water flow rate calculation. Now flow rate, that's the speed of the water moving through the pipe. Here's the formula. Flow rate. Pipe area, X, water velocity. So you'll need to calculate the pipe's cross-sectional area and then multiply by how fast the water is moving. If your pipe is too small for the flow rate required, pressure will drop. Fixtures won't work well. Systems may fail. Real example from the field. I once worked a site where the client wanted to feed 3 bathrooms with a 1 to 2 inch pipe. On paper it looked cheap. In reality, it failed. The pressure was poor, and the flow couldn't keep up with usage. We had to rip it out and upgrade the whole system. So here's the bottom line. Know your numbers. Don't guess. Don't copy. Calculate. A good plumber connects pipes. A great plumber controls flow. That's who you're becoming. All right, apprentice, you've learned the tools, you've done the math. Now it's time to prove you've got it. With your hands. This is your first major practical task, measuring, marking, cutting and preparing real pipes for installation. Your task. You'll be working with both PVC and copper pipes, using a tape measure, marker, pipe cutter and hacksaw. Here's what you'll do. 1. Measure and mark the correct pipe length, accounting for fitting allowances. 2. Cut the pipe cleanly and squarely. No rushing, no guessing. 3. Assemble the pipe using elbows and T's, matching layout requirements and alignment. Trainer's checklist. Your trainer will be watching for correct use of measurement tools, accurate marking technique, clean straight cuts, understanding of where and how fittings connect. Real-world connection. This is the exact process you'll use on every job site, whether you're installing a bathroom, a kitchen, or a whole building system. When you measure and cut with confidence, your clients notice, your colleagues respect you, and your systems, they perform like they should. So don't just go through the motions, own the process, practice with pride. This is how we build professionals, not just by what you know, but by what you can do. Now listen closely. Even good plumbers make mistakes, but the best ones learn from them early. Here are some of the most common measurement mistakes in plumbing, and how to avoid them. Measuring without considering fitting allowances. This is the #1 beginner mistake. You measure the visible space, but forget that a portion of the pipe sits inside the fitting. The result? A pipe that's too short, and a job that won't fit. Using the wrong side of the tape. You grab your tape, measure in centimetres, but your layout was designed in inches. Or vice versa. Now your whole cut is off. Always check your units before you mark. Poor marking technique. A thick, uneven or incomplete line leads to a crooked cut. A crooked cut leads to poor joints. And eventually, leaks. Use a fine marker. Mark with care. Wrap around the pipe if needed. Rushing through measurements. Pressure from the site. The urge to finish fast. So you guess the length instead of confirming. One wrong guess, and now you're wasting time, material, and money. The master's rule. Measure twice, mark once, cut only when you're sure. It sounds simple, but it's what separates the rushed worker from the trusted professional. Remember, nobody sees your measuring tape, but everyone sees the outcome of your measurements. You've made it through Module 3, but remember, learning numbers isn't enough. You've got to put them to work. Your next steps are clear. Study your training manual. Go over every tool, every formula, every step. Head to the workshop. Measure, mark, cut, assemble. Practice until it feels natural. Take the quiz. Test your understanding, not to pass, but to sharpen your skill. Don't skip the lab. Don't avoid the calculations. And don't be satisfied with almost right, because in plumbing, almost right is still wrong. This module wasn't just about measurements. It was about building your confidence, your accuracy, and your reputation. Now go, own the skill, earn the respect, and get ready because Module 4 is waiting, and we're just getting started.
Well done. You've completed Module 3, but don't hang up your tape just yet. Now, your real training begins in the workshop. This is where your numbers come to life, under the guidance of your instructor. Pick up the pipe, mark it, cut it, fit it. Practice everything you've learned, over and over, until it becomes second nature. And don't forget your training manual. It's your reference, your reminder, your silent coach. Use it. Flip through it. Go back to it anytime. When you're ready, take your quiz, Not just to pass, but to prove that what you've measured you understand. That what you've calculated you can now do. Accuracy is a habit. Precision is a mindset. And you, apprentice, are building both. Now go to the workshop and put it into your hands.